this time in Advent, and every Advent in our lectionary, we hear the beginning of Mark's Gospel this year, the arrival of John the Baptist, and the understanding of John's purpose, and the revelation of God that comes through John. Each Gospel has its story of John and of the revealing of his purpose, and hearing them year after year can sometimes make them feel a little dry and lifeless, even though John is quite a polarizing character. Sometimes a way to breathe new life into an old story is to look at it from a different perspective, one that maybe you hadn't thought of before. And so I offer to you now the story of John the Baptist's ministry from a different viewpoint, this time from the perspective of the Jordan River, whose waters John baptizes in. I give you the testimony of the Jordan River. The noonday sun beats warmly on my back, evaporating the last traces of the cool night. From the ancient days of my birth, I flowed between these banks, growing and shrinking with the seasons and the rainfall. I remember when my banks were covered with green vegetation, trees and grasses, sipping deeply from my body, taking life from every drop I lovingly offered them. Four-legged animals came and went, drinking and splashing, growing strong and dying away, all in the cycle of life long ago begun by the great Creator. Then things changed. The skies no longer fed me, no longer fed my banks, and the trees and the grasses faded away like dust, leaving only the memory of their lives and their beautiful green bodies. I missed the sound of their leaves rustling, the feeling of their roots poking through my banks and sharing from my shrinking bounty. It became so quiet and so lonely. I almost wished that I too would fade away, leaving only a cracked riverbed as my legacy. Wondered if anyone would have remembered me. Then things changed again. Two-legged creatures began to show up. First, just a few, dragging themselves over my banks and down into my depths, drinking deeply and with great satisfaction, as though they hadn't quenched their thirst in ages. Some ended right there on my banks, as though their dying wish was just one last drink, which I offered up graciously to all who came to me. But none would stay with me. Soon more two-legged creatures began to arrive. These ones brought others, large and small, along with great flocks of four-legged animals. I've never had so many creatures so delighted to see me, so happy to drink at my edges, and so happy to dance in my depths, washing away the dust and the dirt, leaving it to flow freely along my body and to be given back to Mother Earth. All this made me very happy for a time. I was useful again and life-giving, and I relished the sounds of the creatures that came to me to drink and to be refreshed. I thanked the great Creator for making my purpose known to me again, and I settled back into the rhythm of life and death among the land creatures. But all this happiness and purpose, in all of it something was missing. Despite all the drinking and the dancing and the splashing, I began to feel like I was destined for more. What was it that I was lacking that caused me to call on the great Creator for something more? Then he showed up one day. The two-legged creature who came to me, but he did not drink, and he did not splash, and he did not wash. His name was like the sound of a hand slapping on my surface. John. Some come to my banks and stand for a time, sizing me up, dipping their toes in my edge, testing me for something I don't understand, but not John. The first time John came to my banks, he just waded right in, all the way up to his thighs, as though he knew me, like we were old friends. He didn't skip his hand across my surface, or cup a handful and drink. He just reached down with his palm and gently stroked his hand across my surface. And his face beamed with that expression I seldom see any longer on two-legged animals. For my part, I felt that strange feeling from long ago, that feeling I'd almost forgotten, that tingle that jolted across my surface when the light used to flash across the dark sky just before rain would fall. Then something odd happened. A small crowd of two-legged animals. I think they're called the same name as the great Creator's word for dust, Adamah, showed up on my banks. John called them forward into my waters, and together the two waded in up to their waist. Then John placed one arm across this Adam's body and his other hand across this Adam's forehead. And John proceeded to dunk him under my surface. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times. The Adam came up coughing and spitting, but smiling. And the weird thing was not that this Adam let John almost drown him in my waters. And not that when it was over, the two embraced with joy, but that on the 3rd dunk, I could swear lightning flowed through them into me. I swear I felt the great Creator, something I haven't felt since I was born. Then one by one, all the other Adamah came down to John, and he repeated his dunking process. And each and every time, I felt the same touch of the great Creator as they came out of the water for the 3rd time. And today is just like that first day. The crowds of the Adamah are too large to number now, and they all come to John. And they ask him to take them into my body. I think to offer them something new. Some come in dirty tunics, and some in flowing golden robes. Some with bruised necks and blistered by labor, and some with hands soft. Some wearing the robes of the leaders, and some with bright metal armor. But all come to John, and he brings them to me. And we repeat the dance in the middle of my body. But some come today who do not come into my waters. They stand away from the edge. They don't even touch my fringe. Are they afraid of me or of John? They call to John, who finishes his baptize, I think is the word he uses to describe it. John answers them with an odd sound in his voice. I don't think they understand who he is. I mean, they know who he is, but I don't think they know him. John and the strangers shout back and forth, John standing deep in my body, and the others still on dry ground. I'm not sure what they want, but they don't seem to be getting an answer that satisfies them. I wish I understood the language of the Adamah, because they appear angry with John, and he is frustrated with them. They seem to be speaking the same language, but they don't understand a word each other is saying. Strange creatures, these Adamah. John shakes his head in that no gesture many times, and it seems to make the strangers even louder as they speak. And then John stops, and he reaches down and uses the baptize sound again. This time, he makes that sound he uses when he's speaking about my body, water. Now suddenly John is calm again, more than calm. His face has that happy expression on it again as he raises his arms up to the great Creator and then bows down low in my water, as though someone were standing right in front of him. Someone great and holy. I'm getting that tingling feeling all over me again and all around John. But there's no one else with us. I don't really understand the Anima very well yet, but I do know John because I felt his touch so many times before. He is great among the Anima. But I have a feeling that someone even greater is coming. Someone John has been waiting for. He sees the crowds, but he's always looking beyond them for something more. Someone new, perhaps, who will help John to baptize the Anima. Hope does not come easily to someone as old as me, but I think that the great Creator has heard my prayers, and I feel like something amazing is going to happen, something that has never happened before. I'm going to tell you something now that I've never told another living soul. I've always had this dream that one day the great Creator himself would come down into his creation and walk upon Mother Earth, and who knows, maybe even wade into my cool body. I think John will make that happen. I pray that he will. Hallelujah. Our good news today is that in our sacrament of baptism, water is the outward and visible sign of that inward and spiritual grace given by God. John comes to us today shouting his life-giving refrain, "Prepare ye the way." The waters of baptism from the River Jordan echo John's call, reminding us that our long-awaited Jesus has come into our midst. In this Advent season, having been baptized into Jesus' death and his resurrection, we and all of creation wait for his coming again in glory. Christ has died. Christ is risen, and we faithfully say, Christ will come again. Alleluia.